Okie dokie, artichoke. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Full Steam Ahead. That is science, technology, engineering, art, and math crafts for kids. My name is Sam, and today we are going to be switching back over to the art side of things. Last week we made, what did we make last week? Kaleidoscopes. So this week we are going to be doing something artsy. We are going to be making string paintings today. I made an example earlier. This is not my best work, but that's totally fine. So here's an example. It makes kind of a trumpet-shaped flower, and it changes depending on how you drag and place your string, but we'll get into that in a second. So for today, what you will need is paint, of course. Now, I did a layer of gesso on my 98-pound paper, I believe is what it is. Let's double check. Yes, 98-pound mixed media paper. So I did a layer of gesso. You don't have to do that. You can do a layer of white acrylic paint, or you can use any base color you want. You're also going to need either a very heavy pounded, well, this isn't very heavy, a heavy pound paper, a heavyweight paper, or you can use a canvas. Or if you don't want to spend a lot of money, because this is going to be a craft that you do with youngins for a very long time, maybe like over an hour of painting, and they're going to want to do it multiple times. You can also just do this on wax paper, which I have underneath my mixed media paper to prevent a mess, because I've learned my lesson. Or you can do it on aluminum foil. Those won't be as long lasting, but they're really fun, especially if you just want to practice. So you can use all of those materials for your actual painting. You're also going to need, if you're like me and you want to put something down underneath it to prevent a mess, some tape. Any tape. I have washi and masking tape. And I also used some tape to secure my mixed media paper onto my little mess protector, my mat here, so that it doesn't move around when I pull the string. So you might want to use tape for that as well. You're going to need something to hold your paint. Originally, I did this on a paper plate, and I had the strings laid how I wanted them, and then I poured paint on the sections that I wanted. That was really messy, so you can do that, but you might want to have some little cups, and then you can put paint in the cups and just dip your string in there and pull it right back out, and that might be a little less messy. Of course, you're going to need acrylic paint, whatever colors you want. I happen to have burnt sienna, yellow ochre, titanium white, as Bob Ross would say, and sap green. You're going to need some kind of string. It does need to be a pretty thick string, so you could use baker's twine or regular twine. I have regular twine. Baker's twine is better because regular twine has all these little fuzzies. You probably can't see them because we got a fancy lighting set up because we're doing so many virtual programs now, so it's like really blown out. So you probably can't see it, but there's little fuzzies floating everywhere. So baker's twine would work better. Or you can use a ribbon, or you can use yarn, anything that's really flexible and will absorb paint. You're going to need some scissors so that you can cut your twine or ribbon or whatever you're using to the appropriate length. A brush or a spatula to get your base layer down. So that's my gesso, or you could use any kind of acrylic paint to put down a nice thick base layer. And some water to clean your brushes. And then something to wipe off your brush. And I think that's all the materials for today. Okay, so let's get started. So first off, what you're going to want to do is put down a nice, thick, generous amount of whatever base layer paint you've chosen. So I'm going to put down some gesso. Normally, you wouldn't put gesso on paper. You would just do acrylic paint. But I have it, and it's not going to last forever, and we have a ton, so I'm just going to use it. All right, and also normally you wouldn't just shove your brush in the pot like this, but you know, we're not fancy here. So I'm just going to shove my brush in the pot because it's not going to get used for anything else anytime soon, right? All right, so I'm going to put down a nice thick layer of gesso. You want this to be really generous because the more movement you have on your paper, like the more liquid there is, or the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The more medium there is for your string with the paint on it to move around in, the better your results are going to be. So a nice generous amount of your acrylic paint, whatever color you want, or your gesso, or whatever you're using. If you want, you can do this on a canvas, and that's when I would recommend using the gesso. But I'm gonna be fancy today and use it on my mixed media paper, because why not? Okay, so nice thick layer of your base paint. There we go. Okay, wash off my brush real quick, because if I forget to do that, it's gonna get disgusting, and I do that all the time. Okay, clean that. Okay, I'm not gonna need that anymore, so let's wipe off the brush and set that to the side, because this is a small table and I only have so much room. Okay, set that aside. I can set this aside now too. And now, before that starts to dry too much, we need to, oh, I should probably put on some gloves. You might also want to have some gloves, because you are going to be having to pull the string and it's going to be covered in paint. So I'm going to put on some gloves really quickly, and then I'm going to pour my paints into my little cups. So I'm going to use the sap green. Get a nice good amount in there. It's better if you have the big containers of acrylic paint for this, because you do need a bit. You have to saturate your string or your twine or your baker's twine or your ribbon or your yarn, or whatever you're using. And then my burnt sienna. And then my yellow ochre. Okay, now let's go ahead and saturate our twine. So I've already cut the lengths that I want. It's a good idea to take your canvas or your paper ahead of time and just kind of play around with how you're going to lay out your string. So I already cut mine to the appropriate lengths. And then, oh, I forgot to grab. You should also have something to poke your string down into your paint with so that you fully saturate it. So I'll just use the bottom of my paintbrush. So I'm going to put my twine in to my burnt sienna first. Just get it all twirled up in there. And like I said at the beginning, you can also lay your twine out on a paper plate and then cover either the whole thing or sections with the color of paint that you want. But I did that earlier and it got really messy. So you also might not want to do that. It just depends on how messy you're okay with getting. I'm at work right now, so I probably shouldn't get that messy. If I was at home, I'd be getting a whole lot messier, don't worry. I mean, any of you who watched my color mixing spinning top video, that paint is still all over my table. All right, there we go. Let's wipe off the bottom so we can do that with our other ones as well. Now you can either lay them on one at a time, like I just did the burnt sienna, so I could lay the burnt sienna on right now. Or you can do what I'm gonna do, which is get to each of them individually, like do them all, put them all in the paint and then lay them all on the paper instead of doing one by one. Okay, let's get this one all saturated. Okay, that's much easier. I should have done it that way the first time. You live, you learn. Okay. If I were you, I would grab something to smoosh your, unless you're okay with getting your hands really dirty, I would grab something to smoosh your twine down into the paint with instead of using the end of your paintbrush, because it's getting real messy. Okay, last one. Where's my last bit of twine? There it is. Okay, swirl it, and smoosh it in there. And last one, get it nice and saturated with the sap green. And you do want to be kind of quick about this, just so it doesn't dry very quickly, but don't want to risk it. You do need to have a lot of movement on your canvas or your paper in order for this to work really well. Okay. Now, here we go. Ooh, my hands are so dirty. Gloves, they're magical. Okay, here we go. Which one should we lay down first? Let's do the burnt sienna. Okay. So I don't know if you can see it, but there are all sorts of little fluffy fluffies all over this thing. So that's why it might be better to use baker's twine, because it doesn't have all the little rough bits sticking out. Okay, so now let's go ahead and lay it on. I think I want this one to be off to the side right here. Okay, let that sit there for a minute. Now let's do yellow ochre. Unravel, please. There we go. Ooh, this one's got a lot. Okay, let's do this one. You might need to help it around a little bit. There we go. Right there. Lay it down. And then you can do any design you want. This is really, really fun for kids. Just get their creativity flowing, let them go nuts with it. Like I said at the beginning, you don't need to use fancy paper like I'm doing. You can just put down a layer of wax paper or even aluminum foil and then just let them go hog wild with it and get the feel of, you know, saturating the twine and what kind of designs they can create by laying it out on the aluminum foil and the wax paper. And then once they're comfortable, or if they're a little bit older, then you can try doing it with like a heavy pound mixed media paper or with a canvas or something like that, and just kind of see what kind of designs they can create. I don't know what this one's gonna look like. I have no idea. I want this to lay like that. I want it to make a little curly Q. So now I'm gonna go through real quick and just kind of press down, because there are some spots where it's not touching the paper. Press, 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 press. Try to just use one finger so that I don't mix all my colors together. Okay, and then the last one with the green. And then we will see what this looks like. I have no idea what this is going to look like. Okay, and then if you want to use like a truly stupendous amount of gesso or white acrylic paint, like pour it on your canvas instead of painting it on, that's a way for you to get some really, really smooth, like swirly designs. But I don't really want to waste paint right now, so I'm not doing that. But if you have excessive white paint, please feel free. All right, so let's go ahead and pull. Which one should we pull first? Burnt sienna, sap green, or yellow ochre? Let's pull. Let's pull the yellow ochre first. And then just pull it down. Make sure you pull it straight. Okay, so there's one. Where should I put this? That's a good question. I'll put it over on this paper plate over here. And then let's do the burnt sienna. Go ahead and pull it straight down. So like I said, if you put a ton of gesso or white acrylic paint down, it won't be quite so separated as mine is. It'll be a lot more flowy. Okay. And that's another good experiment you could do with the kiddos at home is try doing different amounts of your base color or your base paint and see how it changes the effect of the painting by putting more or less gesso or acrylic paint on the bottom of it. Okay. Okay, so here is an example of what you can do with string painting. Let me go ahead and pull it up so you can take a look. This turned out much better than my sample from yesterday, which I'll show again in just a second. All right, so here we go. A nice, simple, very easy, relatively quick way that you can bring some art into your kiddos' lives while we're all hanging out at home and learning from home. Okay, so here's string painting. They look kind of like tulip-shaped flowers. And again, if you put more gesso or more white acrylic paint, it will look a little bit more cohesive than this. Not quite so splotchy, but I don't have a whole ton, so I don't want to use it all. And then this is one that I did earlier this morning with sparkly paints. These ones right here are metallic paints. So those are some examples of what you can do with string and some paint. and I hope you enjoyed and got some good ideas for things you can do at home with the kids or by yourself. It's fun for adults too. And then before I close out today's episode of Full Steam Ahead, I just want to give a little news or little updates. So we do still have 4 literacy kits available. We've got music, we've got a Spanish language, we've got a robots themed, and we have a Native American literature literacy kit still. So if you're interested in any of those 4, you can give us a call just at our main branch number on the website, and we will set up a curbside appointment for you to pick it up. It is a 3-week or 21-day, oh no, I got some paint on me, oh well, 21-day checkout, and we will set up your curbside appointment and your return appointment at the same time because they're too big to fit through the book drop. We do still have plenty of voter registration and voter literacy guides, as well as nonpartisan voting guides available for you. If you would like some of those, please do let us know. We can set up a curbside appointment for those, or just put them in your bag if you already have one going. Just a reminder, California does have same-day voter registration on a conditional level, so there are in-person polling locations in our county this year, despite COVID-19. So if you have not registered yet, there is still the opportunity to do so. We are still doing the acorn collection with the Hopland Research Extension Center this year. We're just not a drop-off point ourselves. But if you would like the pamphlet and information, you can either download it online or you can give us a call and we can go ahead and get it to you via curbside. So essentially it's just the information on how and what to collect and what to note about the acorns that you do collect, and then providing drop-off locations based on where you live. And then last bit of news, next week's episode. So next week we're going to go back to the science, technology, engineering, and math side of things, and we are going to test out different kinds of invisible inks. So I will be uploading this video so that it's viewable after the live video has ended, and when I do that I will include a list of all of the necessary materials to participate in next week's invisible ink experiment. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed and got some good ideas for ways that you can play around with string art at home, and I will see you with next week's episode at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, okay? Have a good one, everybody. Stay safe.